This is the Hollow Speaks, and I'm your host. How y'all doing? Got a good show for y'all, so just stop trying to adjust your radio. It ain't broke. Back half of the program, we'll be playing some fine music you're gonna dig. But before we get there, let's flip over to the other side of the world. Vietnam. God damn. Vietnam. The Vietnam War rages on. And here, we talking about the black men killed there. But I tell you what, New Bordeaux, don't fucking kid yourself. Ain't just about black men, is it? Hell no. Plenty of death to go round to the poor folk, too. You ain't got shit, then, son, you getting shit on. Meanwhile, the politicians glad hand the widows and orphans, give speeches about the nobility of war, saying the battlefield is where the warrior should meet his end. As if they have any fucking clue. And you know what I say to them? Go fuck yourself. The nobility and dying with your face down in Vietnamese mud doesn't fucking exist. Now, we told by the white news and the white government that this war is about fighting communism, that we're sacrificing all these lives so that peace will wash over the planet. But what if there's something else going on here? What if this here war has another intention, and it don't have shit to do with fucking Reds? You see, I got this idea in my head. This idea that our government has another motivation for this war. I think they got a reason for getting our asses into every war. They want to keep us from realizing we getting fucked 5 ways to Sunday. Think about it. If we being sent off to die in some other country, then we not able to do shit about this country. We never understand how bad off we are. Now, this ain't fun to think on, to realize the truth about what's really happening. But it does give us something else, something important. Anger. And anger's what we need right now. More folks fear would rage at the injustices in the world. Anger grows from that place deep inside when you hear about colored boys over there dying for a country that don't pay them no mind. A country that would rather see them hang from a tree than graduate college. Anger inspires. It inspires a black woman from North Carolina to sing about goddamn Mississippi. Inspires a black man from the holler to take over New Bordeaux's airwaves to deliver the truth. And the truth is that it's only getting worse before it gets better. All right. That's all we got, New Bordeaux. So hang tight and remember, when the holler speaks, you better listen. Ooh, Lord, it's hot in the holler. Damn hot. But I'm not talking about the temperature neither. But it's that too. This is the Holler Speaks. And tonight we're talking about the Hollow's own Sammy Robinson. Not just a leader, but a source of inspiration within our community. Along with his son Ellis and his adopted boy Lincoln Clay. He did everything he could to support our community through his benevolent society. If someone couldn't quite make the rent, needed medicine, diapers, couldn't put food on the table, Sammy was there to lend a hand. But he was taken from us far too soon in that tragic bar fire. His boys along with him. Bar fire. Can you believe that's still the official ruling on what happened? But we know the truth. Been over it more times than I care to count. As a community, the Holler's still trying to fight back from that loss. And to make matters worse, we got new folks mingling round. Outsiders. Bayou trash. But there ain't no benevolence in their hearts. With them, they bring only pain, heartbreak. But they doing more than that. They shattering spirits, damning souls. Their actions are brazen and intent on one outcome. to destroy us. They've laid waste to our community church, place Sammy intended for folks to rally round. How many marriages began there? How many last respects were paid between those walls? And what's become of it? White motherfuckers have destroyed it, and now are running drugs out of it. They've stolen what is ours. But New Bordeaux, they didn't stop there. They took the cultural icon of the Hollow, Pearlin, named in honor of Sammy's late wife, and transformed it into a hellhole of abused, drug-addicted young black women. And why? To create a haven for the elite and wealthy crackers in our city to fuck our women. Now, I'm not ignorant to the realities of the businesses Sammy Robinson ran. Most were criminal. Hell, he was a criminal. No denying that. If you did him wrong, you were probably in a heap of shit and were lucky to escape with your life. But above all else, Sammy was one of us. He was our criminal. Today, these white assholes are out there in our neighborhood dogpiling us, beating us within inches of our lives, sometimes more. This cannot stand. This will not stand. And when the holler speaks, you better listen while you still can. Welcome to another show, folks. This is the Holler Speaks. Now, earlier today, I was scanning my own radio dial, and I happened to land on the Native Son show with Remy Duvall. He had a guest on there y'all are familiar with, Chief Wilson. Poor old Chief Wilson. He's a man time forgot. The man death forgot to put out of his goddamn misery. An old, worthless motherfucker who spends his days beating on colored folk and his nights beating on himself, if you catch my drift. When he was asked if New Bordeaux has a colored problem, Chief Wilson had this to say: "What we've got is a black power problem." He also threw out some interesting numbers, saying 20% of the city's population is black, but 60% of the prison population is black. Now, what he failed to mention is that 100% of his law officers are white. So it would seem to me that what New Bordeaux has is a police power problem. Chief Wilson has shown himself to be the definition of ignorant. He is a man, a white man in a position of great power. He's literally got the ability to shoot and kill anyone he deems dangerous. Think about that. The same man expressing thoughts like this. You go back all the way to after the war between the states. We had a whole mess of them. That would be us black folk if you're unsure. We had a whole mess of them. Free down here. And next thing you know, they trying to take over the government. Ain't got a cent to their names or shoes to walk in and want to be in Congress. And that's coming from a man who could be pulling you over for a busted taillight. Or, God forbid, speeding. Does this sound like a man whose primary interest is protecting everyone in the city? Or does it sound like someone more interested in protecting a way of thinking, centered around keeping us black folk in line, making sure we don't get too uppity? Well, Chief Wilson, I got some bad news for you. We uppity niggas are just getting started. Now, here's a larger issue at hand, the big picture, so to speak. Chief Wilson sets the tone and pace for an entire police department. And at his disposal is an entire police department made up of white officers. Now, why do you think the city's seeing a record number of police beatings? And why do you think we've had twice as many police shootings involving young black men this year than last? Is it because crime is running rampant? Or is it because our police department has a shoot first, ask questions later policy? Who needs Miranda when you got Magnum? And Chief Wilson, if you're listening, this is the part of the show where I warn you. When the holler speaks, you better listen. We're coming at you from deep inside the holler. And tonight, we're going to talk about the things happening right here in New Bordeaux. Things I don't think anyone could have ever predicted. Except yours truly, of course. Seems there's a gentleman out there, maybe he's even listening right now, who police are referring to as a violent agitator. Now, hold on, that's not exactly right. Police are actually referring to him as a violent black agitator. Our own Chief Earl Wilson had this to say. The Negroes must be guided with a firm hand, and that hand must not be afraid to be raised if the situation calls for it. So while we get all kinds of opinions on who this person is and conjecture on what their motivations and how to deal with them, we avoid the obvious question. Of course, the obvious ain't ever the easiest. Instead of asking what kind of person commits these acts of violence, you gotta take a long look in the mirror and ask what kind of city creates a person like this. What were the circumstances to drive someone to do these things? What level of hopelessness did they descend into? Where this presented itself as the only answer? How has this city failed one of its own in such a monumental way? And before you start nodding your head, pointing fingers and agreeing, remember, you might just be part of the problem. Because tonight, there's a boy out there hurting. Feels like there's no one he can trust, no one he can turn to. The damage he's doing will probably knock this city to its goddamn knees. And I only got one thing to say to that boy. Don't stop until the ashes go cold. Don't stop until their bones are dust. Don't stop until every last one of those motherfuckers is dead. This here's our wake-up call. Do you hear it? Because the hollow does. And when the hollow speaks, you better listen. We all got choices in the way we approach the challenges in life. But sometimes you find after a while a certain approach just ain't working. And then that's when you consider another way. This is the Holler Speaks, and I want to thank you for listening. Earlier this year, on April 3rd, Dr. King delivered a speech in Memphis, telling us about his journey to the mountaintop. His eloquent words filled our ears as he spoke about change coming to this nation, encouraged us to maintain unity as we push this journey for change even further. Less than 24 hours later, single bullet ended Dr. King's journey. Left those of us behind to finish the job. But in his absence, some might say because of it, the debate of our tactics continues. Dr. King preached nonviolence. Turn the other cheek. If your enemy strikes you down, you stand up and keep walking forward. Dr. King led sit-ins, protests, and marches, did everything he could to guide folks away from engaging in acts of violence as a means of protest, a method to fight for our rights. So I guess the question is, as the federal government passes another civil rights amendment, did nonviolence actually work? The debate over nonviolence rests more on the matter of perspective. If you see this struggle as one based on changing society's misconceptions of black and minority folk, then yeah, nonviolence is probably the only reasonable answer. But if you align with those who see this not as a struggle, but as a battle, a war, a revolution, well, that's when nonviolence starts to lose its strength. If bullets are flying, batons beating, and blood flowing, you can't... It's hard to turn the other cheek when you're lying in a pool of your own goddamn blood. I, for one, struggle with the reality that this civil rights amendment was passed in the wake of Dr. King's murder. As much as it may honor his memory, his legacy, it took an assassin's bullet to force the issue. So does nonviolence work? Didn't work for Dr. King. Didn't work for Brother Malcolm. Didn't work for John and Robert Kennedy. And it didn't work for those 4 little girls in Alabama. So why the fuck we think it's gonna work here in New Bordeaux? And for all you doubters, remember, when the holler speaks, you better listen. How y'all doing out there? The holler's got something to speak about. So open up your ears and get ready to receive. This time we gonna discuss our government. What's it doing for you? Paving the roads, keeping the mail running, protecting and serving? Your answer probably depends on who you are, where you live, and the shade of your skin. But right now, we're going to be discussing one specific organization operating with the full support of our current administration. And that is the FBI. Turns out those motherfuckers are doing everything possible to undermine the black voice and the black vote. Even going so far as to target our black leaders. And who you think they consider to be the most dangerous black leader? Try Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. May he rest in peace. After Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech in 1963, the FBI labeled him, and I quote, the most dangerous and effective Negro leader in the country. Our federal government labeled a man who preached only peace dangerous. A man who spoke on hope, hard work, and dedication was now considered a threat. And the FBI proceeded to track his every move until this past April, when he was murdered outside a Memphis motel. What was that? You don't believe me. U.S. government wouldn't allow one of their own agencies to do something so horrible, you say. Why don't you ask our fellow Americans of Japanese heritage what they think our government's capable of? The ones rounded up like cattle in the internment camps right here on American soil during World War II. Try asking our Indian brothers and sisters fighting for their survival on the very land stolen out from under them what they think our government's capable of. Shit, ask the fucking Kennedys. But why would the FBI do something like this? It's simple. They see every black man, woman, and child as an agitator, a problem. Gone are their good old days of the obedient nigger picking cotton and shoveling shit. Today the black man is nothing but a threat. Now more than ever. We have politicians giving speeches and taking photos with little black babies. But you better believe they got no interest in colored folk rising out of the ghetto. They don't even want the ghetto rising out of the ghetto, unless the white folks are gonna move in. In public, our politicians make a big hoopty about civil rights, while in private, they got the largest domestic law enforcement agency in the country calling a man of God dangerous. Think about that for a second, New Bordeaux. If they see Dr. King as a threat to their American dream, how do they see me? How do they see you? And maybe you gotta ask yourself, how do you want to be seen? All right now, our time together has reached its end. But never forget that the holler's always watching, always listening. But when the holler decides to speak, y'all better listen. The Holler Speaks is back, right on time. And tonight we're gonna talk about the struggle and the fight, and how just when you think the battle's won, it very well may have just begun. Now, revolution is on the mind of a lot of folks these days. Some with positive intentions, others with, not so positive intentions. Just saying the word feels good. Revolution. Bold. Like you doing something. Something that matters. But you see, that right there is the problem, ain't it? Anyone can say a word. Put revolution in the mouth of a certain young German after World War I, and you end up with Nazi Germany. Put it in the mouth of a child, the right child, and you inspire millions. Or you put it in the mouth of a politician, and you end up with paperwork and more words. Words that rang as empty as a whole house on a Sunday morning. Now that, my friends, is empty. Outside of maybe love, revolution is one of the only words in the English language that loses all meaning without action. Now, wait, no, that's not right. Actions, plural. Now, you can disagree as to how that revolution comes to life, but it's undeniable. In D.C., we have politicians signing something they call a Civil Rights Act. Like any of them been on the other side of the barricade. We got people who know nothing about what it's like being black, brown, or yellow, trying to make things just. Oh, sure, we can give them credit for trying. Fuck that. They ain't getting credit for trying. Trying is what people say when they expect to fail. Or at least when they expect that whatever they doing ain't gonna make a damn bit of difference. But while the white politicians are trying, the black citizens are dying. Here's the bottom line. It don't matter who signs what if no one's interested in monitoring and enforcing these laws. Without actions to back it up, the best use for these pieces of paper with all them words is to wipe your fucking ass. So let's all just stop trying and start doing. And when the holler speaks, you better listen. Time for y'all to hear what the holler's got to say. This is the Holler Speaks. And tonight we talking about this phrase I keep hearing people throwing around. Race war. What's really going on? Are we talking about a war of words? Or are we talking about boots on the backs? We got people out there talking about how this war is coming down the line. That it's inevitable. White folks are really concerned about this. But here's the thing all them scared motherfuckers don't realize as they sit in their homes, trembling in fear of the crazy black man. This war, this race war, has been going on for 400 years. Started the moment some white boy decided to fill his ship with black folk and drag them across the ocean. And over the years, they destroyed families, raped women, murdered children, mutilated folk. If that ain't war, then I'll be goddamned if I know what war is. Of course, what do we expect? The reality is that this country's very existence is rooted in race war. Europeans came to this land and murdered the Indians that were native here. And in the process stole their land, including this land we sitting on right now. Some of those white folks literally exterminated our Indian brothers and sisters. So you see, New Bordeaux, colored folk didn't start this war. It's always been here. But now that we are here, you can bet your ass we gonna finish it. Or die trying. Now some of y'all probably asking right now, what about peace? And my response is, what about it? Peace ain't getting us nowhere. White folks been running around lynching black folk and our allies since they brought us here. They don't believe we human beings. That we don't deserve to be treated equally. That we should be ashamed of the color of our skin or who we are. You can't change the minds of people that are that violently ignorant. So, what now? If we're in the midst of this race war, how do we get out of it? Easy answer? We give up. Oh, that is not what you thought I was going to say. It's the truth. The easiest, simplest thing we do is give up. Let everything go and do exactly what we told. Be good, obedient niggas. But what kind of life we leading then? Any kind of value to it? Some violence goes away, but along with it goes dignity, our pride. That sound worth it to you? Me neither. We're left with one other option. We don't give up. We rise up, fight up, and we don't stop till we get to that promised land. So all you white folk listening, I will say this. Take the time today to consider which side of history you gonna fall on. Take the time while you got it. Because you know when the holler speaks, you better listen. Trey McCall, 24. Lamont Harris, 25. Remember their names. Permanently etch them into your brain. Now here's another name. Hollis Dupree. A white man. The white man who shot Trey McCall and Lamont Harris dead. Being the man about town that I am, I've gathered something better than truth. Something called reality. Like what, you ask? How about the reality that when Trey McCall's car was found, it wasn't working, wouldn't start? How about the reality that witnesses not being interviewed by our local press have stated that Lamont Harris was running away and Dupree shot him in the back? The fucking coward. That enough reality for you? If you ain't sure, let me help you out. Trey McCall and Lamont Harris were knocking on Hollis Dupree's door to their demise. For one reason and one reason only. They needed help. Two black men went to ask a white man for help, and they paid for it with their goddamn lives. Oh, Dupree has his excuses, his reasons. Some try to call it self-defense. Dupree claims he thought McCall was some kind of black phantom running around killing white folk. Now, I'm not going to bury my head in the sand. I know there's something going on out there, but whoever's shaking things up, it doesn't mean it's open season on black men in New Bordeaux. Of course, if you ask a white man, maybe it means just that. The judicial system is at least going through the motions of bringing charges against Hollis Dupree. But that ignores the heart of the problem, which is to say, our city has very little heart for black lives, brown lives, female lives, poor lives. Now that I give it a good thing, maybe this black phantom is exactly what we need. Whether right or wrong, this person cannot be ignored. And there's something to be said for that. You listen to folks singing hymns and protesting, then you go on with your day. But bullets, baby. Bullets get you heard. So maybe what we're really looking at is open season on the white man. So take notice, New Bordeaux. Do not ignore these young men who've been murdered in cold blood on our streets. There's only so long before the folks getting beat. Stand up and start doing the beating. And when the holler speaks, you better fucking listen. Welcome to the Hollow Speaks, y'all. We gonna have ourselves a discussion about the bullshit in sheep's clothing. The one staring right back at us. That's right. We talking about the Briar Patch. Those of us living here in the Hollow have dealt with this kind of thing before. Something that we were told was for us, for our families. Hell, some of our very own relatives put blood, sweat, and tears into building the goddamn thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That place out yonder we'd all prefer to forget. Ben Saturday's Fun Park. And I'll admit right now that the Crazy Gator's still one of the best goddamn roller coasters I've ever been on, for true. But everything about how that park was put together should offend any sensible person, black or otherwise. From the big-lipped, buck-toothed voodoo priest to the white savior tasked with saving the poor ignorant villagers in the legend of the Rougarou Ride. Ben Saturdays lasted 3 months before the holler took matters into our own hands, snuck in there overnight, and laid waste to it. On the outside, folks rallied together, protested, and shut that fucking place down. Hard to run a business if you ain't got customers. But do you remember how the press reported on our protests? How about I refresh your memory? These people know not respect, no gratitude for what has been given to them. Instead, they act like animals who will only heal with a strong swat from a rolled-up newspaper. In my years, if there's one thing I've learned, is that the white press is gonna do what the white press is gonna do. So fuck them. They're not even part of this discussion. But what should be discussed is why we still throw our money at the greatest offender in our city, the Briar Patch. The great irony, of course, comes from the fact that the goddamn Briar Patch was one of the primary financial backers of Ben Saturday's Fun Park. So the place that paid the tab for Ben Saturdays was also the place we went to celebrate. And today, we still go in there to fill our stomachs while our local diners, the diners run by colored folks in the holler, go out of business. Y'all lining the pockets of fat cats in Atlanta while your own gets kicked to the street. And y'all still listening to that little twerp, Remy Duvall, even though you can't stand the lies coming out of his mouth. That motherfucker Duvall is getting rich on your back with your buck. Fucking southern fried white boy shoot-who stick together. I get those motherfuckers that. Now I can hear y'all out there. Say, man, why you such an uptight cat? Who cares who's making money off pancakes, eggs, and shitty grits? You want to know who should care? You should. It's called self-respect, son. And when you don't stand up and give them a good fuck you when they go too far, they gonna lose track of where too far really is. Before long, we're back in the fields picking cotton. Black families getting destroyed on the auction block. Try to tell me that can't happen. It won't happen. Go ahead. Try. You can't. You know better. And y'all are realizing the truth, that when the holler speaks, you better goddamn listen. Now tonight we gonna have some fun, do some celebrating. So get your dancing shoes on, New Bordeaux. Remy Duvall is fucking dead. Ha ha! Now before you get your panties in a bunch over me speaking ill of the dead, let me refresh your memory. Remy Duvall spent all his adult life and probably most of his childhood making others feel bad about themselves, about who they are and how they look. And that motherfucker did this by utilizing what I call bless your heart racism. He spoke about colored folk as if they were beneath him, as if they were children who needed his guidance, whether they knew it or not. Bless your heart racism, in my humble opinion, is the worst kind because it cloaks itself in warmth and what looks like caring. Duvall wielded this like Ali wields his jab and his quick wit. So the only thing I'm sorry about is that it took so long for somebody to kill that cocksucker. And boy, did he get killed. Decked out in his Southern Union cloak and hood, Remy Duvall was set afire, burnt up. Now that, my friends, is what I call justice. Oh, shit. Did I just hear a collective gasp from the respectable folk over in Crackerfield? Well, fuck you, Crackerfield. All y'all can kiss my black ass. Duvall was a man who spent his life trying to work people. He was a con man of the highest order. Used his real estate dealings to steal property out from under colored folks, then overcharged them rent for homes in the 9th District. Black man tried to do what that gentry motherfucker did. Police would shoot him dead before he got out his fucking car. Now, I will say this. A small piece of my soul was restored because of Duvall's demise. In his death, the truth was finally revealed. Things he spent his entire public career denying were laid out for the world to see in all its brutal glory. Now, before you start feeling like I'm being too hard on him, saying shit like, no one deserves to die that way, I want you to remember who the Southern Union is. Oh, now you can dress it up in any name you want, but the Klan is still the fucking Klan. And before y'all come to me saying I shouldn't be celebrating the death of another man, let me propose this to you. How many crosses did it burn in this city? How many black folk did that motherfucker hang from a rope until they neck snapped? How many did it tie to a bumper and drag around the bayou until all that was left was a piece of raw meat? Black folk tell stories about evil like that. Stories to warn our children, protect them, make sure they come home safe. Duvall was pure evil. He was the new Bordeaux devil. But the devil is no more. That's all I got tonight. Take care of each other out there. And when the holler speaks, you best listen. Here's to us. Yeah. This is the holler speaks, and I hope y'all will bear with me. I recently had a revelation. Call it the voice of God. Call it dumb luck. But I come to realize that I know the man committing these acts of great violence throughout New Bordeaux. Actually, what I should say is I knew him, more as a teenager than as the man he is now. But regardless, I know the pain in his heart, the loss he suffered. I'm also aware of the perpetrators of that loss. And I'm here tonight, New Bordeaux, to tell you that this man's pain is your pain. His loss is your loss. He's not some crazed maniac with only murder and mayhem in his heart. He's a son, a brother, a soldier, a friend. He served his country proudly, and he wasn't drafted neither, volunteered. When folks started running away from that fight in the jungle, this man ran toward it. Oh, now, it's easy to judge him based on these acts of violence alone. We've discussed this in the past. But what's happening is not as clean-cut as you might think. And we, the rest of New Bordeaux, are not as innocent in this whole mess as we like to believe we are. This man is fighting a war here at home. He's doing the thing the rest of us are too chicken shit to do. He stood back, saw this city of destruction for what it is, and now rains down his own brand of fire and brimstone, while we turn into pillars of salt watching him do it. He's trying to rid us of the evil we created, or at the very least, the evil we allowed to be created. We all know the criminal elements been running rampant through this city for 100 years, but as long as they were watching out for us, we looked the other way. This man can't look the other way. When this man closes his eyes at night, all he sees is a destruction these folks have left in their wake, like a wave crashing down, leaving nothing behind. He cannot close his eyes, and we're all the better for it. So on this night, I'm hoping, praying, that this man is listening to my voice. Son, you do what you gotta do. Do what we can't do for ourselves. There's gonna be those judging you, saying your violence is what's wrong with the world, that you part of the problem no different than the monsters you ending. But I believe in the cleansing power of violence. I believe that the blood you spill and shed will lead us forward. Like the farmer wielding his scythe on the barley. You are clearing the field so the next crop can grow better, stronger. This is the holler speaking, son. But now the holler listens to you. The holler speaks is back, motherfuckers. And this time, we got weed on our mind. And we wondering how a little old plant could cause such a stir as to be made illegal. And what were the motivations of those who drove it to be made illegal in the first place? Well, New Bordeaux has a long, proud tradition of cultivating our own vices. We've been making our own cigars and alcohol since before this city even existed. But of course, if the government doesn't get its cut, well, then you got trouble. So why not legalize and tax it? Is there something else going on here? Well, there is a person who might be able to shine a light on things. There are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S., and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. Whew. Mr. Harry Anslinger, the man responsible for the prohibition of marijuana, said that back 30 years ago. Mr. Anslinger also blessed us with these fine words of wisdom. Reefer makes darkies think they as good as white men. So, the prohibition of reefer is based purely on racist motherfuckers looking to demonize black folks. Any colored folk out there surprised to hear that? Didn't think so. But when you boil it down, how exactly is this prohibition affecting the black community? Actually, let's widen that net a bit. Do these laws mean no one, black, white, brown, or blue, is lighting up? Are we just not smoking weed? Of course not. Folks are enjoying it as much as that bathtub gin or that Bayou Shine. The real question then is who's getting incarcerated for it. And that's what we're really talking about, ain't it? I hear the amens echoing through the hollow right now, for sure, for sure. But I'm going to answer that question with another quote from the good Mr. Anslinger. The primary reason to outlaw marijuana is its effect on the degenerate races. Degenerate races. Degenerate. Hell of a word. Remember when we spoke about those who don't believe colored folk are even human? How do you change those minds? How do you combat that level of ignorance by anything? By anything short of a bullet. I wish I didn't have to say things like that. But wishing doesn't change a thing. Wishing is for cheering. The innocent. Ain't many of those left round here. And y'all know, when the holler speaks, you better listen. Snakes, skulls, pins and dolls, and of course, curses. That's right. It's all about voodoo. This is the Holler Speaks. Like any other good New Bordeaux native, I do everything I can to avoid the tourist trap that is the French Ward. But last week I found myself down there grabbing a po' boy and catching a show. What I also caught was shops dealing in what they call the real voodoo. Now, I've seen these places for years. Nothing new. But for whatever reason, this time I saw them with fresh eyes. And what I saw was promises of love, money, and 100 ways to keep your dick hard. Light this candle. Keep that gree-gree bag close. Put this pin in that dial. Easy fixes for all your problems. Except for one little thing. Isn't fixing shit, folks. Only thing it's doing is putting green in the pockets of the shopkeeper. But in the end, it's empty, pointless. And that ain't the voodoo I know. Voodoo, or as our Haitian family refers to it, Voodoo, is a religion grounded in history. It's about connecting and staying connected with our ancestors, our roots. Today there's a movement in the holler to reconnect with this traditional Haitian Voodoo. And some of y'all might be wondering why. Those of you who don't, I got music right around the corner, so relax. You might learn something. August 14th, 1791. A night not that different than this one. A group of Haitian slaves participated in a Vodou ceremony in a place known as Bois Cayman. It was there that they dedicated themselves to one thing: freedom. 1 week later, over 1,000 slave owners were dead, and Haiti was on its way to independence. Of course, the irony is that those same events led many slave owners to flee Haiti, dragging their slaves along with them. And where do you think they all ended up? Yep, right here in New Bordeaux. Now, since arriving in New Bordeaux, the slaves, our ancestors, had their Vodou faith quite literally beaten out of them. And if it wasn't beaten out, it was at least beaten down, underground. But these slaves, being the smart motherfuckers they were, adapted. They synchronized the Voodoo spirits, the Loire, with the Catholic saints. Duvall was represented by St. Patrick, Papa Legba by St. Lazarus. So the dipshit slave owners would walk in, see a photo of St. Patrick or St. Lazarus or whoever, and feel good about themselves. Their heathen slaves had finally found God. But in reality, they were continuing their traditions as usual, hiding in plain sight. Told you they were smart. So tonight, I sit here wondering how many fighters are out there hiding in plain sight. How many of you are willing to look back and reconnect with a past you may have never known? There's a revolution going on here in New Bordeaux. It's time for each of you to pick a side. Of course, you could choose to turn a blind eye to what we're saying tonight. But I'll leave you with this. When the holler speaks, you better listen. The holler speaks is back to give you a taste of hardcore reality. Since the beginning, our primary goal has been to remind New Bordeaux about the reality outside your door, outside your neighborhood, to remind you that we are a city. And when one of us is wronged, all of us are wrong. When one of us is misrepresented, we all misrepresented. None of us know how long we got, so we best make good use of right now. And right now, I want to talk to the young bloods out there. These words I'm laying out are for the teenagers, the college students, our next generation of leaders. Those unfortunate folks out there us old fuckers are leaving behind to clean up all the shit we've been piling up. First of all, let me apologize. We're not leaving this country or this planet in a better condition than when we slid out our mamas. But we tried. At least some of us did. God damn, did we try. Every fucking day. Sure, things ain't exactly as bad as they used to be, but here's the truth. I want my country to be a better place than it is. I want to believe that this country is capable of leading by example, that we're willing to hold ourselves to a higher set of standards, face the consequences when we fall short. I want to believe all those things. I want to, but I can't. As a country, we haven't proven ourselves to be willing to face the music when we fuck up. As a country, we a fucking child, a preschooler, a 4-year-old who screams for a new toy, and then the moment he gets it, screams how much he hates it. We act like there's no country in the world greater than ours, yet our politicians sit on their asses and do nothing about the problems of the people until they worry those people might rise up against them. We're just as bad as anyone else on this planet. Oh, no, wait. That's not true. We're worse. We're worse because we have the potential for great things. We're worse because we actually have laws that, when practiced correctly, are built specifically to ensure the poor and disenfranchised voice is heard, that every vote matters, but more importantly, that every life matters. We have all this potential, but we waste it. We waste it fighting over skin color. We're cavemen, more interested in trying to prove who has the biggest dick instead of making sure every American has a fair shot. We an embarrassment. Sorry, folks. Seems I got a loud neighbor. So, what's all this mean for you, the next generation? Do better, try harder, learn from our mistakes. And don't be afraid of your own. Embrace your failures. Know that sometimes you gotta get bloody to fight for what you want. And if you gotta shake the pillars of civilization to make it right, then you shake, motherfucker. The voice of the holler is, and has always been, the voice of the oppressed, the disenfranchised and ignored, no matter the race. But you gotta be more than a voice. You gotta be the voice in action. And never forget that when the holler speaks, you better listen. You don't have the right to come barging in here. Fuck you, pigs!
Late heart seen dark, silvery moon is shining through the trees. Cast to me you, sound of kisses floating on the breeze. Act 1,